Yo, 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 what is good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Golden State Warrior Fan Room Podcast presented by yours truly, Jeremy. You can follow me on X at R2R30111. And you can follow my guy Justin here at the Package AG. He's a regular at this point. And yeah, today we'll be diving into the Golden State Warriors, the first round matchup against the Houston Rockets, giving our takeaways and the different things we need to execute to beat those guys, and as well as discussing last week in the NBA for our Warriors and how things trended and whatnot, and things of the nature. But before we dive into any of that, my guy, just how you doing today, man? It's been a minute since we linked up. I know last time we talked, I think it was when we discussed the Jimmy Butler trade. So yeah, it's been a few months, but how life been treating you, man?
Pretty good. Can't complain. I was happy to have the Warriors back in the playoffs. Um, it's been 2 years, to the day, I guess, or
Oh
around this
yes.
time where they played against the Lakers a couple seasons ago. So it's good to have them in position to play 7 games
Hmm.
to win a series and go on from there. And it just seems like there's just a much higher ceiling for this type of team
Yeah.
this year. So it's definitely something to be excited about. So feeling pretty good.
Yeah. But yeah, man, let's dive right into it. So for our Warriors, man, like this past week have been one heck of a week. Just a lot of emotions involved. Like you go back to Sunday, this past Sunday when we played the Los Angeles Clippers, like what a game that was, just like a game seven. A lot was at stake there. The six seed was on the line. Ultimately the Clippers ended up beating us or whatnot. But what are your takeaways from that game? Like, did anything in particular stood out or that
hmm
caught your attention or whatnot?
The Clippers are really good.
Yeah,
The Clippers are really good, and the Warriors are also really good. That was two heavyweight teams. I
yeah,
think that proved on that stage that they're both ready to contend if they can stay healthy, and things happen reasonably as you can expect it to.
hmm,
So is defense on the Warriors side for sure,
yeah,
but at the end of the day, I mean, when Kawhi is in that mode, he's not missing. Harden was in that mode where he was not missing. We typically used to seeing Harden, come up a little bit short against the Warriors in high leverage games, but he had his A game going that night.
yeah,
Zubac is a monster. Um, but given all the talent that they have, all the versatility that they have in shooting, the Warriors were right there with them and had a chance. They could have beat them. They went to OT. They
hmm,
kind of shot themselves a little bit in the foot with turnovers, stuff like that. But it goes to show that this team has an extremely high floor and extremely high ceiling. They
hmm.
can compete with a team that good at that high leverage of a game and still, have a chance to win. So that's what I kind of took away from it.
Yeah, man. Some would argue that this is arguably like the best game of the season that they watched, and I could, see that point. Like it was, like you said, like a heavyweight fight. Like
hmm
James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, and Steph. Like the stars showed up and they performed. So yeah, man. Like, and also the Clippers. When I look at the others, like a Zubac, 17 rebounds, if I'm not mistaken, like 22 points.
hmm
That was huge as well. Like they killed us on the glass, and Derek Jones Jr. coming off the bench, providing that energy, and Chris Dunn, Norman Powell doing what he do. And to your point, like this Clippers team is definitely ready to contend for a title. I feel like they got the right pieces. Obviously it's easier said than done, but to your point, like with Kawhi Leonard, man, when he's in that mode, he's just a hard dude to stop. And yeah, on our end of things, like one thing that's like kind of took my mind to another level is like Jonathan Kaminga. Like obviously he's been kind of been struggling since he's returned back from injury or whatnot. Like Jimmy Butler, just trying to get Jimmy Butler into the flow of our offense, like the way we like to operate and different things like that. Like and Kaminga, it's like him and Kaminga don't really thrive a lot together. Like
hmm
the minutes you seen him out there, just kind of like a clunky fit. Like both guys really don't shoot the three at a high efficient level, and also like with Kaminga is like he try to like ISO a lot or whatever, but that's kind of not our way, like our brand of basketball. And it's like with Steve Kerr, it's just kind of hard for him to keep him out there if he's not just playing off the ball and just cutting to the rim and whatnot. Like, what are your thoughts on like Jonathan Kaminga just not getting any minutes at all in that game? Well, first I would say, like, do you think that if he were to play in that game, it would change the outcome of the game?
It could have. That's the thing with JK is like it can go one way, it can go the other, right? You just
Hmm.
don't necessarily know what you're going to get from game to game. I think
Hmm.
I wouldn't say it was the wrong decision to not play him because they were in position to win the game. I think if they um, take care of the ball a little bit better down the stretch, if Draymond makes that layup instead of goes for that foul, maybe they are in position to go to a second OT. Um, so they
All right.
definitely had a chance to win that game. The thing with JK is, you know, against certain teams, I think it fits because he can just kind of go into his bag a little bit. And if he has a physical advantage on that team, then it makes it extremely easy for him to make quick decisions with the ball. But if he doesn't, then he kind of stops the ball. He stops the flow because he's trying to get into his ISO bag a little bit. But if it's a stout NBA defender on him that can kind of match his size or something like that,
Yeah.
then he kind of it turns into him having to use skill rather than his athleticism to score and or IQ to score. And he's just not quite there yet to be able to do that quickly, efficiently, and within the flow of the offense. But if he's playing against a
Mhm.
team that's smaller or slower, he can just blow by guys and score it. And it's like, okay, that's great. You know, so a team like the Clippers that has so many guys that can match up with him size wise, and he's not just going to blow by dudes, you know. So it could have gone bad if he had played, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so I can't say it was the wrong decision or not really.
Yeah. I could agree to disagree. Like, I think he probably would have matched up with James Harden better than GP2 did
That's
because
fair.
GP2 was just he was getting fried. James Harden just kept blowing past him. In the fourth quarter, whatnot, and offensively it was just like GP2 not making shots. He's not being that
Mm,
lob threat. It's like you really playing 3-on-5 because Draymond not much of a threat out there neither. So it's like you got Steph, Brandon, and Jimmy, who's pretty much providing on the offense, and then the other team is just sagging on GP2 and Draymond. So
mhm.
um, to that point, at least on the offensive end, Kaminga could provide more than GP2. And like I said, defensively, I think he would have matched up better with Harden, just providing that athleticism, that size and that length. To be able to bother him on his shots and drive to the rim or whatnot. So yeah, I
Sure.
could definitely see where you're coming from, but nonetheless, man, shout out to the Clippers. It was a hard earned win. Kawhi Leonard he rewound the clock a little bit, and yeah, same with James Harden. But we move on to Memphis this past Tuesday, man. Like another like up and down game 7 type of vibe. Like a lot at stake here. Whoever wins gets the 7th seed, and our Warriors did that. Like, what did you take away from that game? Anything particular stand out to you?
Um, I think it kind of shows a little bit of the Warriors' potential weaknesses depending on who they play, right? If you play against a team who has a second unit or has a guy who can run a second unit and really provide offense and a spark on offense, it can be problematic for the Warriors,
Yeah.
particularly if they're playing Buddy out there or guys who aren't really defending at the highest level because
Mhm.
I mean the starting group was kind of up and down, right? The Memphis kind of came out hitting shots, so it was like, okay, let the game settle in, and then we're going to kind of make our run, which they did. They went up 20,
They did that, yeah.
and then they had the second unit come in, and Desmond Bain fried them and brought Memphis right back into the game. So it's like, I don't think that'll be a particular issue against Houston because Houston doesn't have a ton of offense in the form of shooting off
Hmm.
their second unit or really in their first unit period.
Yeah.
But later, as they progress, if they beat Houston, they end up seeing the Lakers in the second round. It's going to be one of LeBron or Luca or Reeves running that second or third unit, and all three of those guys are obviously extremely potent offensive engine type of players. So that's going to be tough. So that's really the main takeaway I took from that game.
Yeah,
And I mean, Steph and Jimmy, they ready to go, right? Clearly, they putting up
for
30
sure.
plus both games from the Clippers and the Memphis game, and yeah, they're gonna be tough to stop. It's just a matter of can the Warriors survive the second unit runs from the other team, and really what depth can they show, right? Like, can they rely on 6 or 7 or 8 guys, or is it just their top 5 or top 4 guys that they can really rely on?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely feel you on that. Like, and that's kind of why I look at Kaminga, man. Like, can he be that guy that provide us that offense with the second unit? Because when you talk about like guys that create their own shots, we don't have a lot of that on the team. But Kaminga is one of those guys who can, sort of do that. He get to the rim and he can get a shot off. Whereas it to like Buddy, GP2, G Santos, not really, but Kaminga can do that. So I definitely see where you're coming from. But it's also on the other end too, like defense, like you said, Des and Bang fried our second unit, and they helped the Grizzlies get back in that game. So nonetheless, there's a lot of things that we kind of have to like iron out or whatever. But we got a few more days to do that. But one of my takeaways for the Memphis game, man, is I would have to say Draymond fouling out. Like obviously Zach Edey is much bigger than Draymond or whatever, but to me that's a problem. Like if he's going to be our full time starting center moving forward, he has to control fouling out. Because if I'm not mistaken, he fouled out. Was it? No, I don't think it was the Clippers game. It was.
Uh,
It was a key game. He fouled out, and I was like, man, that's a huge. No, he didn't foul out. He got a foul trouble against Houston about a week
mhm,
or so ago when they played when they came to chase him. That's what it was. He got into foul trouble. And like I said, I think there's going to be a problem. Like when you talk about the Western Conference getting messed up against Shangoon, Jokic, bigger guys like that. He has to control, get into foul trouble quickly because he's very important to our team the way we like to operate on offense or whatever. So,
mhm.
yeah, if he can control that, I like our chance pretty much against anybody. But that was one thing that caught my attention. Another thing I had to say, man, like you said, Jimmy Butler, like he set the tone for us. He dropped 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists in the first half, and Steph pretty much carried us to the promised land. So you see your two stars, pretty much setting the tone. You would just hope and pray that guys like Moses and Brandon and Buddy and all the role players, Quentin Post, just follow those guys' lead. And like I said, if they can do all that, man, I like our chances. But it was a good game, man. John Morant, he tweaked his ankle or whatever. That didn't look too good, but he did ultimately end up coming back. But you could tell he just wasn't right. And yeah, man, we ended up getting the win, and we the 7th seed. So now we get to play Houston, and we got our work cut out for us. But when we talk about like the potential matchup, the preview, like I think we 3-2 with them in the regular season. We played them 5 times. We won three of those matchups. And Jonathan Kaminga, by the way, was our leading scorer in all the matchups. So well, not in all the matchups, but overall, like when you average it up, he was our leading scorer. So that's what lead me to my question with you. Like Jonathan Kaminga received another DNP against Memphis, and he received his first DNP against LA this past Sunday. So do you think they're going to this series right? We know how young Houston is. They got a lot of athletes on that team, man. A lot of athletes. And Kaminga is obviously our best athlete on the team. So do you think that a guy like Kaminga could be the X factor and us ultimately beating Houston in the 7 game series?
I think he could be an X factor. I don't think he is the X factor.
Okay.
Um, I definitely think he is one of those teams. Like I said, you can find smaller guys to put, to for him to take advantage of. I think that's one of the things that gave him success when they played him a few times in the season, where Jalen Green is getting switched on them, or Fred Van Vliet, or somebody like that, or even Shangoon, and these guys just can't match his athleticism. Really, the only guy that can on that team is Amin Thompson, and he's going to be preoccupied guarding Steph. Jabari Smith got length. He can't match him step for step in terms of burst, but he has size. He's almost 7 foot as a wing, which
Hmm.
is pretty insane. But I think he can be a type of player that can use his athleticism on the offensive glass. Like if he's playing the way that they want him to play, essentially kind of like Gee on the offensive end, and just crashing the offensive glass, and occasionally attack a closeout, get an ISO against a smaller player here and there, then
Hmm.
he can definitely have some success, and he can definitely have an impact that can just put the series way in the Warriors' favor, right? But I don't think
Yeah.
he's necessarily like an X factor, as if he doesn't play well, they'll lose. But if he
Hmm.
plays well, it might be a quick series, honestly. Like
Yeah.
I think that's the type of impact he can have.
Yeah. I agree, man. I feel like because like I said, he's played pretty well against them for the most part of every game. Not so much last matchup, but overall he did pretty good. But I think that to your point, he can be in X Factor. I don't think that he would be the ultimate, decision. Like if he were to play good or play bad, determine if we win or not. But he could
Mhm.
definitely be a key factor in us beating those guys for sure. Like just when you look at a guy like Tari Eason coming off the bench for Houston, I feel like a guy like Kaminga could help keep him off the glass or whatever, because that's what Eason does. Like he gives Houston a lot of second chance opportunities as well as Jabbar Smith Jr. So my point is, they got like a lot of size and length coming off the bench, and for us, we don't just have that, but a guy like Kaminga can help, fight on the glass and get rebounds and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And then also like, what would you say? Let's just say three good reasons what we need to execute to beat Houston. Like,
Mhm.
what do we need to execute the most to just defeat these guys? Like, obviously, a lot of people been saying we got the experience over them. This is like five or their seven top guys, first time going to the postseason. So that kind of says it right there. But what are
Mhm.
some key reasons like you think that we can beat these guys?
Well, why they can beat them is they have the two best players in the series. I think if Jimmy and Steph
Just that
at the
simple,
end of
huh?
the day, like is keep it simple. They got the two best guys in the series. Steph is the best player in the series by far. Um, I mean, Jimmy would go to Houston and be their best player instantly. So that
Yeah, I
alone is
agree.
a crazy advantage. And if they play to their abilities, it really shouldn't be an issue to beat them. In
Hmm.
terms of what they need to do, I think to put themselves in the best position to beat them. One, I think they need to get Steph and Jimmy free. Um, if you just let them in face guard them the whole time and just not let Steph get the ball ever, then Houston can definitely like keep the game super grimy and anybody can win at that point. So if you can get Steph some separation that doesn't require him to dribble away from Amin and stuff like that, because that's just going to tire him out. Amin's a crazy athlete. He might be the best athlete in the NBA at this
Yeah,
point.
for
Crazy
sure.
IQ for a young player. Defensively, he's a freak. So like Steph is going to have his work cut out for him in terms of one-on-one matchups. But if you can use actions to get him free from a man, or even Dylan Brooks who's holding them and Fred Van Vliet who's holding them, get him into space, I think he'll do his thing. Same thing with Jimmy. Get Jimmy some mismatches. Right, that last game, Fred Van Vliet found himself on Draymond a ton,
Hmm.
because they just want to switch those Steph Draymond pick and rolls with somebody like Fred or Dylan. So if you can get Fred onto Jimmy, I think Jimmy can take advantage of him in the post.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Steph and Jimmy got to get free. Secondly, don't turn the ball over. I
Yeah.
mean, Houston's half court offense is terrible. So how they can hurt you is getting out in transition with their defense. So if you can limit their transition opportunities with getting offensive rebounds and not turning the ball over, I think that'll zap a ton of their offense and they'll have an even harder time to score.
Yeah.
And then when they are on half court, in the half court, forcing guys like Dylan Brooks to beat you with contested jumpers and Amin Thompson shooting from the outside. Don't let Shingun have his way inside, which I don't think they will. But forcing their streaky shooters or bad shooters to take jump shots to try to beat you, and I think they'll have an easy time stopping that offense if they do that.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely agree, man. Like all great points. Like you kind of said it. We got the two best players in this series, and Jimmy and Steph. So I could definitely see
Mhm.
that. Like, yeah, but for me, I would have to say, man, we definitely have to exploit like Houston for 3-point shooting. Like those guys are not high volume 3-point shooters, over there. And for us, like if we could just pack the paint, limit drives, force Houston to rely on outside jumpers. I think that'll do wonders for us. As as well as just our playoff experience. Like I said, like a lot of these guys, this is their first time going to the postseason. Like Jalen Green, Jabbar Smith Jr., Shangoon, Tara Eason. You get the picture. Like they got veteran guys over there that has been to the postseason, like Dylan Brooks, Fred
Mhm.
Van Vliet, Steven Adams. But Adams don't really play a ton. Fred Van Vliet is really not the same guy that he was 3 years ago or whatever. He's kind of taking a step back. And yeah, Dylan Brooks. He's Dylan Brooks. Kind of speaks for itself. The villain, or whatever you want to call him.
Right.
But yeah, we can capitalize on our playoff experience. I think that that'll do wonders. A lot of people saying that this can go 7 games. I'm not arguing that, but I think we can beat those guys in 6 for sure. If we execute, the game plan that we come up with. And last, I'd say, man, we can match their physicality and rebound. Like
Hmm.
I noticed that they've been running like this two big man lineup, like Jabbar Smith Jr. at the three. I think it's Shangun at the four, and then Steven Adams at the five. That's kind of interesting to me, man. It's really like three centers out there. But and that makes them one of the best rebounding teams in the league. So for us, if we can just rely on Draymond defensive versatility to disrupt Shangoon post play and limit like a lot of second chance opportunities, I like our chances as well as just using our small ball lineups pretty effectively. Where they be Kaminga and Draymond out there with Jimmy and however the case may be. So if we can execute on all three of those things, I think that'll be the key to ultimately beating Houston, as well as just like winning the free throw battle. Like I think Houston ranked last in free throw percentage. I want to say, so we can get those guys to the foul line. I think that'll do wonders for us. So the bright is lights. The bright is light. I mean, the light is bright in the playoffs. So you know we'll see who fold under pressure. A lot of guys tend to shift into another gear when it comes down to the postseason. Maybe those young guys do it, maybe they don't. But for us, we've been there, we've done that. We know what it takes to win. You've been seeing what Draymond been saying. He's pretty much guaranteed the championship. Me as a fan, I can't just do that right now. I have to see what things look like a little bit more. But these guys seem to be laser locked in on winning a chip, man. Jimmy Butler, he's motivated. He wants to get his first championship. Steph want to get his fifth. So yeah, man, these guys are locked in for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I think, and I think a big swing factor in this series is how the other guys perform offensively. Like I
Mhm.
said, they put Fred on Draymond. They like to put Dylan on Jimmy and Amen on Steph. So a
Mhm.
lot of the Jimmy Steph pick and roll, a lot of the Jimmy Draymond pick and roll, Steph Draymond pick and roll, they just switch those and it kind of throws Golden State's offense off. So if you can have a guy like Pods, a guy like Moody, make them pay for putting Shingun and Jalen Green on them, who
Yeah.
are two of their weaker defenders, I think that can swing things because it just opens up the offense a little bit more for the star guys. And then in the second unit, like you said, they use that three big lineup a little bit. If you can throw Quentin Post and Buddy Hield and Guy Santos out there, because they won't that lineup won't make you pay offensively. That's just a nasty
No.
offensive lineup right there. So you
No.
can get away, you can get away with playing Post and Buddy out there defensively because they're not playing against a crazy offense. You just got to make sure they rebound. But if you can put those guys out there and really spread that big lineup out on the perimeter, I think it kind of negates a lot of their rebounding advantage and stuff like that. So it'll be an interesting chess match between Steve and Ime Udoka again. I'm sure Ime is remembering how he got checkmated in the finals
Yeah, he
some
remember.
years
Trust
ago.
me, he remember that.
Yeah,
If
he
you
definitely
watch the
remembered.
last matchup, that matchup with Chippy, like Ime Udoka
Yeah,
had
it was
something to say to
personal for
self.
sure. It was,
And that's why I say like this is going to be a good matchup because like with that last game, like they was face guarding Steph, they was blitzing him off every screen. If
mm-hmm.
they think that they finna do that and have success in this series, that it's not going to work. I can tell you this now because number one, Shagun, I don't fear him. Like if I'm Jimmy Butler or if Kaminga get minutes and they blitz Steph every time, I'm looking to just dunk on Shangoon, get him in foul trouble, whatever the case may be, because he's not a rim protector by any means. So yeah, I'm going to his fucking chest. So
mm-hmm.
in saying that, like I know we can execute a good game plan to counter that if they want to face guard Steph and blitz him. And, if all the attention is on Steph, then good luck because Jimmy Butler's going to have a field day, I promise you. Like when
Mm-hmm.
Jimmy Butler is locked in and just trying to be aggressive offensively, he's a different type of dude, bro. Trust me, because like the past two games have shown me that like there were moments during the regular season when Jimmy would just not be aggressive. Like he would have a layup and he'll pass out of it. But that Clippers game and that Grizzlies game, he was not doing that. So
Right.
that's how I know that playoff Jimmy is really a real thing. So speaking from firsthand, so yeah.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, man. It's gonna be a fun series for sure. So who you have ultimately like winning? Like obviously I'm pretty sure you got the Warriors winning, but in how
Mm-hmm.
many games?
I'm gonna go safe and go six.
Yeah.
I think it's possible to beat them in five, even without home court advantage. I think if they split the first two games, win both at home,
Yeah.
I think they can take it home in 5, depending on like the spirit of the Rockets by the time it gets there. Obviously, take it a game at a time, but I think Houston's half court offense is a problem. I think they
Mhm.
won't be able to generate a lot of good offense. I think the Warriors in a rock fight will have a better chance at generating offense because they have Steph and they have Jimmy.
Yeah.
I think they have not seen playoff Jimmy yet. In that last game, I think gave them a little bit of false hope in terms of what they can do to Steph and what they can do to Jimmy because they were on their 4th game in 6 nights. Clearly, the Rockets really wanted that game. Ime took that game personal. It was chippy. They played that game with a playoff intensity, and the Warriors didn't. And the Warriors still had a chance to steal that game at the end. So I think the Warriors are the better team. You know, the Rockets are kind of like the Kings were a couple of years ago, where it's like, okay, y'all a young, fun team that's pretty good. But when it comes down to it, we can take the things that make you good away, and you can't take the
Right.
things that we make us good away because you don't have anything really for Steph or Jimmy.
Yeah.
So
I
it
agree.
should be fun though. I definitely think it'll be a fun one. But I'm gonna pick Warriors in 6. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 5.
Yeah. So, do you think that Draymond and Dylan Brooks get into it during this series?
Probably,
It's a
probably.
lot of
Dylan Brooks is
history.
a baiter. Şengün is a guy that likes to bait too. He baited Draymond last game. That's why Draymond got into that foul trouble. He
Hmm.
talking to the ref, telling the ref to call a foul and all of that type of stuff.
Hmm.
Şengün is how Draymond is with European or Şengün is like Eurasian. He's Turkish,
Yeah.
with the European bigs, but
I
so he's
didn't.
definitely gonna get baited. It's just hopefully he doesn't get baited into getting suspended a game. That would be
Mhm.
horrible.
Yeah,
But
man, we can't have that again, bro. I'm not
can't
gonna
have it.
lie.
Can't
We
have it.
can't have that. Yeah.
I think
Now
Jimmy.
that you bring that up, like that's interesting because I didn't know Nick Young, because Nick Young said this on Gil's Arena that Draymond hate like European bigs. I didn't know if he was joking or not. And
I
that's
think it's coincidental, but yeah, he do.
yeah,
Gobert, Sabonis,
yeah,
Sengun, Nurkic,
Nurkic, yeah,
all them dudes. Only one is Joker. I think he respects Joker too much. Joker's too good to get, and Joker don't even
yeah.
talk and stuff like that. So
I think yeah, Joker and Zubac,
yeah,
Joel maybe. Yeah,
right.
I
Yeah,
can
Joel.
see
I
it, bro.
mean, Joel. Um, yeah, Joel. I mean, these dudes are monsters. Like they legit players. The other ones are kind of like gimmicky a little bit. I don't think
Yeah,
Draymond really rock with that. So.
yeah. Well, we definitely know how you feel against Rudy Gobert. I mean, to
Hmm.
his point, he definitely did steal a free of his defense player of the year trophies. I'm not gonna lie to you. So,
He definitely did.
yeah, man. So when we get past Houston, we will play the winner of the Lakers and T Wolves. That'll
Hmm.
be the second round. Then conference finals would be OKC. I'm assuming that OKC makes to the conference finals. I could be wrong, but I think that they can make it to the conference finals. So when we view all of that, like Houston, we don't know who's going to win between LA and T Wolves.
Hmm.
So who you think going to be our hardest matchup though? Like if you had to kind of take an early guess right now,
If
like
I had
in
to
the
look at all
starters.
teams, all teams in the playoffs, it's probably OKC.
Hmm.
But then I mean it's either OKC or the Clippers. I think
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah.
for obvious reasons with the Clippers, we saw when we played them, they just got Kawhi's a monster, and they got like a lot of switchability on defense, so they can kind of throw
A
things
lot,
off a little bit.
a
In
lot.
size, they have legitimate size. They can punish you on the glass.
Hmm.
Um, and still maintain pretty good offensive potency with that size. That's a big issue for the Warriors. So them, yeah. Um, and then probably OKC. They've been the best team all year. Their defense is elite. They can go small. They can play big. They have the MVP, who I think is the MVP this season, playing unbelievable basketball. So you definitely have to include them. But I would say those are the two.
Yeah, I definitely agree. SGA should definitely be the MVP. No disrespect to the Joker, but yeah, you got to get that guy there, man. The Thunder was number one seed for a reason. So yeah, and to your point with the Clippers, like he want to look at a guy like Ben Simmons, right? Like he gave like the Clippers a lot of second chance opportunity when they played us, man. Like
Hmm.
him as they backup big is it looks pretty good, man. Because as a scorer, maybe as a playmaker, I don't just think that's his role anymore. Because he doesn't look at the rim anymore. Like I was
Hmm.
watching one game when they played the Lakers, and he had Gabe Vincent on him, and he didn't look at the rim not one time. So I don't know if he's just broken, from a score perspective or whatever. But him as a backup big on the Clippers, that looks pretty nice. But yeah, man, I definitely agree. I think that those two teams would be our biggest threats, nonetheless. Not not so much the Lakers or T Wolves, but I can see with the Clippers and the Thunder for sure. So
Mhm.
yeah, man. But nothing is going to be easy in the Western Conference, to say the least. Like every team we match up against is going to be a battle,
Yeah.
and it going to comes down to who wants it more. And I think that for us, we got guys that's hungry. Draymond, he really wants to win this. He's been preaching it, so time to go out there and show it. So yeah, man, tune into the first game against Houston this Sunday on 3 days. I probably drop this episode the day of the game. So yeah, man. But always appreciate you stopping by, man. It's always a fun time. We link up and do this. We probably can link up, like, depending if we go to a game 7, maybe we can, like, discuss it
Mhm.
and see how it goes, as well as preview the next series. However you want to do it, just working around your schedule and whatnot. So yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm all for it for sure.
Yeah, but make
Appreciate
sure you
you.
guys follow. Yeah. Make sure you guys follow my guy Justin on X at the Package AG, as well as myself at R2R30111. And yeah, man. With that being said, we out. Peace.